Hello, everyone, and we are live yet again. And this is going to be one of my authors' chats of the week. And I'll kind of give it a moment for the notifications to get out there. So then hopefully I can see that my co-host is live and I can invite him in to the chat. Just peek right now, just see what's up there. I see him. We'll get started in just a moment. We're talking about all things books, writing, publishing, and everything in between. Let's see. I sent my invite. Hopefully he sees it, and we'll go from there. But yeah, it's kind of been a rainy day today, which for me always makes me. Whoop. I don't see why you're not in the chat. There we go. Let's see. We can get you in here. Okay, send the invite one more time. Must have glitched. It's been around years. Who knows what my service is like? Hopefully it lasts. Hello, hello?
Hello. Can you hear me?
I hear you, but I do not see you.
This is a first for me, so I don't.
It's okay. It takes a moment, and I don't know if you see if they're like trying to see if there's like dot. If you click your face, you might be able to see. Let's see. I see that you don't have your camera on, so I wonder if you can turn it on.
How about?
Yay!
Wow.
Yay!
Hello.
How are you?
I am doing well. Oh my goodness. How many months has it been?
We met back in November at what has now become or retermed itself as Author Nation.
Exactly, yeah, and I'm super excited for this year's. So
yay! Okay, hi Florida. But yay! That's so exciting because yes, I have purchased the tickets to the conference and I have the hotel, but now I have to do the plane tickets.
Yes. You know what? I actually haven't purchased any of my tickets, so I should probably hop on that right now.
Yes. Yes, make sure you get in before you know.
Yeah.
Because I know it keeps growing, but they eventually theoretically will hit their max limit. But yeah, so as my co-host this week, I will let you, if you've ever seen my lives from the beginning before, but I'll let you introduce yourself and what you write, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Rocco Levitas. I'm an epic fantasy author, and I just published my first book. Let me grab that right here. The Seam of Eternity.
Love it.
And I actually just put out, I think last month, my prequel novella, The Shadow of Loss. And I'm currently working on books 2 and 2.5, which will be a novella to introduce the backstory of a character that comes up in book 2.
Nice. Okay, so you're gonna release 2.5 before 2, or
no? Although at this rate it would probably be easier to. But no. So book 2. All right. Just to put this in perspective, this chonker right here is 598 pages, but that includes the glossary. And book 2 is going to be a similar size, so I'm going through edits right now, and it is quite a bit of editing that I have to do. And then book 2.5 will probably be right around the 40,000 mark, or 130 pages, I'm guessing. So that'll just be much easier to deal with all the editing, and it's got, for the most part, a single point of view instead of 7. So
fair, because I know you, and I don't know if he joined or not, but our friend ZSD Monty both do big cast of characters, and I'm a single point of view person, so that's just easy for me, and have to slowly challenge myself so I can write multiple points of view. But I'm going to ask you a question about that in just a moment, but I do see D.E. Carlson popping in here and saying that she's thinking of doing some kind of live series where she asks authors their book title and then reads some excerpts from them, potentially in dramatic voices. I think that would be great.
Ooh, well, just so you know, I've been working on my voices. So
I love that. I love that. And but yeah, for you, going back to the original thought was because you have 7 points of view. Do you ever have trouble trying to figure out who knows what?
Okay, so great question. And let's say I probably exaggerated a little bit with the 7 points of view. But uh, I mean, okay, ready? I'm actually going to do some quick math. Book one has 2.5-ish points of view. And then book two is going to have one, two, three, four, five, like 5 points of view, and then a few that are just kind of like thrown in there to give some extra perspectives from other people's side of things. So actually, I think it will have 7 technically. Does it get difficult to track? Yes and no. I mean, so when I grew up, I was just that's what I read was epic fantasy and going through all these different perspectives. So it just kind of comes second nature to me, I guess. Also, something I like to do is I like to write pretty much chronologically. So even if you're changing from somebody else's point of view, it's just like kind of the next thing that's happening in the scene. And if you think about it, you're writing a scene for, I have two characters, Callan and Vasha, okay? So I'll just talk about them real quick. If I'm writing a scene from Callan's point of view and Vasha's in it, I'm still saying like what she, how she's physically reacting. So I know what's going through her minds. That way the next chapter, when it's from Vasha's point of view, I can kind of just flip the script. And it's fun to me because then I get to go into the thoughts that are actually going through Vasha's mind, and how she's perceiving the way Callan will act, things like that.
That is fun. I do like that. And I will rewind just a moment because when you said 2.5 point, POVs, I know what you mean. But when you say that, I was like, so like a split personality, right? Where it's a
Good point. No, I guess what I mean is really it's just like two main characters and then somebody who's not a main character, like gets some airtime.
Yes, I do like that. I do like that. And I've only done a 3 POV for a non-published work. It's my behind-the-scenes single standalone project, but it was fun. It was fun trying to get in the headspace of multiple characters and figure out, how they perceived each other and the same events from, different eyes. And that was a nice thing to do. And potentially going forward, that's made me comfortable enough where I'm like, well, maybe I will open it up to multiple point of views depending on the story.
Yeah, sorry, can you hear the train, by the way, going?
A little bit. Okay, that was okay. I was trying to figure what that.
I don't really know how to mute quickly. Maybe I.
You're good. You're good. Hey, I grew up almost always near some kind of train line, railroad tracks and all that kind of stuff. So roosters and trains, I just don't even hear them anymore. But yeah, I do like that, and that is a big feat, especially expanding from your first book with the 2.5 to a potentially 5, 6, maybe some other snippet characters. And again, all I can think of is like comparing it to something else. And so, will you be like the future J.R.R. Martin, where you keep adding each book in the series more POVs until you have to have 2 books?
I have considered it, but at the same time, I'm also thinking like I might dial it in just a little more than that. So I've heard. Well, let me rephrase. I've never actually read Game of Thrones, but I have watched the series, and it probably wasn't until my second watch through that I actually understood all the different people I was seeing. Because also maybe some of it was because I was like, with friends and drinking wine or something. I think I'm allowed to say that on TikTok without getting like censored, right? But anyway, yeah, so maybe that's part of the reason why I don't really remember everything that was happening in the Game of Thrones early episodes, but it took me a while to figure out like, okay, we've got how many different stories going on here, seeing it visually. It was all so fast paced.
I think that's fun. Hey, I don't know. I was spitballing ideas with my husband one day because we were literally on the couch doing this, where we were coming up with this like concept for a live stream for here. We're like drinking in dungeons, where he talks about the theories and the character kind of and the entities from D&D, and I kind of bring back and tie it into the mythology they may or may not have been, inspired from. Since I know mythology and he knows D&D, we're like just sitting on the couch. You'll be like drunk history month,
Yes.
But fantasy and mythology and D&D, and I thought we never actually did it, but we're like, wouldn't that be fun?
It might be time to revisit that idea.
Maybe, but yeah. So okay, so going back to your books.
Yeah.
So you're building out your world and all your characters and your stories. What inspired you? Because this is like the base 101 question that I almost always have to ask. A first time guest is what inspired you to write your book?
Yeah, definitely. And go figure, another train is going by right now.
You're good.
But in terms of what inspired me, so it goes back, I think, to I can focus in
You
just 1 second. Uh, okay, so I'm gay, and growing up, I was raised in a very religious family, and I get along with my family really well right now, and I am out to them. I know not everybody is as fortunate as I am to have a family that is like religious and yet has come around to still accepting me, but I do have that situation, and it's always funny to me, even just looking at my social media, because I've got two very opposite ends of the spectrum. I've got the very religious side, and then I've got the very gay side. And I've been in situations too where people from like both sides of my world have met, gotten along super well together, and it's not until afterward they're like, oh, that person believes this, and it's like, yeah, but guess what, you still got along fine with them, because at our core we're also humans. We're all people. And I kind of had the idea of, what if you had this world where nobody agrees with each other on what's right or wrong, and there's a lot of division. However, everybody still wants what they think is right for the world. And, when you've got this ancient evil entity that's rising up from its prison realm, people are going to have to figure out how to work together to stop it, or else everything's going to kind of go down the drain. So that's maybe the longer
I like that.
of answering that question.
That's the thing. It is so fascinating of like how people's core experiences or how they view the world and the translation into literature. And for you, this is this epic, sweeping fantasy tale, but it still has some tethers into your own personal background, which again, it's just so fascinating for me with talking to all these other authors.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's it's been a really interesting experience, just I guess writing all this stuff out, and having family and friends like reading and saying like, hey, this sounds a lot like that. I'm like, yeah, I wonder why. So
Now, do you base any characters on people? I know some people are like 100%, others are like absolutely not, and then there's some of us that are like, well, kind of, sort of, not really, but
yeah, honestly, I'd say sometimes I base the characters on me, but not necessarily even intentionally. Anytime I have a character, I try to make sure, like, hey, I have to keep, especially when you're dealing with a lot of different points of view, like, you have to keep in mind what makes that character unique, so they don't all start blending together, because that's what makes them feel real. So I try to just think about what their characteristics are, and I might ask myself, how would so and so, who I know had, in real life, we all have all these different characteristics, but you can't really do that in a story because everybody just feels the same. So I'll try to think about, how would so and so do that when they're mad, and how would this person do it when they're in whatever state of mind would make sense for a character. So I will draw inspiration in that sense, but it's like nothing's 100% based on a specific person.
I'm kind of with you right there, where I've had, again, these like little snippets of ideas or based off, maybe a characteristic of someone I know or a situation that, I have or one of my friends have had. And kind of, again, that's the inspiration. But the characters themselves, very, very, only a couple I could say I kind of based off, and typically that would be me.
Yeah. Yeah.
My young adult Portal fantasy character is my alter ego. Like, she has my name. I'm not even hiding it. She is me. I wish I was her.
That is great.
Living
That is
the
great.
So, okay, so for you right now, do you know how long your series will become? Because you're already invested in now 2 novellas and 2 full lengths in this reality you're building.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's gonna be like between 4 to 6 books with like full length novels with a novella in between each. Well, I guess technically the prequel novella comes before book one, so there's no like book 1.5. But yeah, book two, 2.53, 3.5, etc.
Now you're gonna have to be one of those people who has the reading order preferential because some people are gonna assume one way or assume the other, and if there are authors that are like, this is the ideal way you route, and then there are some that are like, pick up my book, I don't really care.
So I actually have developed a little reading order tab, and I wrote it into my book. But you have 2 paths. You have the path of the arcane warrior and the path of the fledgling explorer. And the reason behind that is the prequel goes pretty deep into the magic system, while still keeping everything action-packed and moving along fast-paced. This one is your more classic immersion experience where you're just exploring the world alongside the characters as they leave their small towns and start encountering the larger world. But so there's a lot of stuff that they just don't know. And for that reason, you have a lot of unknown questions about the magic system, hopefully not in a jarring way, but just in the sense that, it's gradually unfolding. So for people who wanted to understand more of the magic system, I recommend they start with this, and that's the path of the arcane warrior, whereas the fledgling explorer lets them first just dip their toes into the world, get acquainted with it, before going to read the prequel to fill in all the any gaps in knowledge.
Talking about magic systems, like everybody has, their own kind and take on them. And how would you describe your magic system? Because I've heard some people that are very, very different, and others that are kind of like, well, it reminisces to this kind of scenario. So how would you describe, without going obviously full length in your novella, but
definitely. So it's similar to elemental magic. But it's also got a more cerebral twist to it. So in that sense, it's even got some, kind of like, think Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time magic meets Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archives. So instead of having fire, earth, water, and wind, I've got 5 veins. So there's vitality, substance, knowledge, impulse, and I always forget the 5th one when I'm saying them on the spot. I have to look at them on the map. But anyway, there's another one. And each of those have kind of 2 affinities. See, this is why I had to write a whole prequel novella to explain some of it. But yes, there's like a material side and an ethereal side. I'll just go into one. Knowledge, for example, in its material affinity is going to be more of an elemental thing like light production, okay? Whereas in its ethereal side, it might let you guide others or have some kind of linking of knowledge, that kind of thing. So each of the veins has those 2 sides.
I've always wanted to do this, but I know someone has told me that there are platforms how you do this. I don't know. I totally forgot. But like coming up with your own filter for this app, because I could see yours be what magic system in your universe, and do the little filter, and it just like says this is going to be your magic system type and all that stuff. And you never know, maybe it'll build a buzz a little bit for your books.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking, is it Adam AP Beswick?
He's done a few, yes.
Oh, he's done. Well, I know about his Spirit Beast one, and then I like went to look at it the other day because I was thinking like, what's involved in? I was thinking like, could I make something that's like, which character are you? The mischievous best friend, the this, that, the other. Um, and I saw he's got like a ton of uses of that filter. And I was just looking through them. They're a lot of fun. So I have to figure out if there's a way I can, you know, do that in a way that's also easy to understand for somebody who doesn't have epic fantasy. Like, somebody who just reads romances, what the heck would the vein of knowledge mean to them?
Well,
So,
I feel like if you could figure out how to do a cool, and maybe this is some kind of future art pieces that you can add to, like, whatever you want to do, marketing purposes. But like if you had some kind of cool like logos that would be for each different type of magic system, and they would pop up. So whatever your logo, and then have like the word underneath it. And again, you don't have to be super deep about it, but again, relate it to the fact that if you want to know more, you gotta read these books.
yeah. Ooh, okay. I already have ideas. Like, are you a Vitalic? Dun, dun, dun. So,
I like that. I like that.
giving me
Hey, you
some
never know.
material
So
here.
I love coming up with like random ideas. Most of them I would never figure out how to do for myself, but they're fun. They're fun to at least think about. And then for anybody who actually does these things, great. Let me know.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, I do not know how to create those things, but I'm interested in finding out.
I bet Google knows all. Google
I
knows
know.
all.
Yeah.
Asking the book talk community, they'll help. Help is there. So since the last time we hung out, which was in November, what have you been doing to kind of reach new readers? Because that's something I know a lot of people either struggle with or are very just inherently good. But what have you been doing to try to reach new readers?
Yeah, well, because of a conversation with you, I am on TikTok in the first place. So that is one thing that I've done. And other than that, I've really just been like, I've actually had a few of the things that I've made on TikTok go viral on Instagram. So I think I have more followers there. Um,
I hear that. I hear that. That works sometimes.
yeah. And I'm like, how do I get that stuff to go viral on TikTok?
How do you get this
um,
to go viral? Period. That's my question.
I had something, it didn't go like I wouldn't call it viral, but it got like 3,500 views and it was just a dad joke. Um,
Always the ones you least expect.
yeah, exactly. I was like, okay. So I've actually made a few more book related joke content and they
Yeah,
actually
I would
kind of
say.
perform. They're fun to do. I'm a big fan of humor. And that's something I have to like hold myself back from when I'm writing because I want every character to have those like uh mischievous side to them always, but I'm like, no, not everybody can do that. I have to limit that to certain characters. Um so anyway, yeah, there's the social media. I've been building my newsletter out. So I like doing swaps with other authors, which really just helps introduce, my readers to new authors, and we can kind of share. Yeah, exactly. Um, and I was like on the fence about doing that at first. I was like, I don't want to bombard my newsletter subscribers with a bunch of stuff. And then I was like, wait a second. No, of course, it's not that I'm bombarding them. They can opt into selecting if they want to read content from another author. I definitely can't write and publish something every like 3 days because there people can go through an entire book in that long, right? So why not introduce them to other authors who they might fall in love with? It's just a win-win situation. So yeah, those have been my two main focuses. I did try briefly with like Facebook ads to increase my reach. Haven't had a ton of success there though, so putting a pause on that.
Yeah, I've been considering kind of pausing my ads because they helped when I was in KU to an extent. And my
Mm.
question is, do I revamp them and then now because I sell directly on my website, send them to my bookshop and not Amazon and see if there's any difference, or do I just nix them and be like, well, most of the people who I sell to anyway see me on platforms like this, which is great unless the platform disappears. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But
Yeah. um, I do not know the answer to that, but Steve Piper, I think, and Lydia. Is it Steve and Lydia? There are some. Lena, remind me to follow up with you. There's I know some people who highly recommend this particular approach that helps with direct sales and Amazon, even if you're not in KU. So yeah.
okay, make my notes. I am slowly getting better about having like at least a sticky pad, nearby on these lives because there's just always some kind of information that at least I benefit from. I hope other people benefit from as well, but stuff like, or follow-up questions that I have. I'm like, can you help me figure out what you're awesome at? Because I want to be awesome at it too, but I'm not. Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah, I should have brought a notebook ready for myself.
Yeah, no, like that was one of the things that I took away from going to our conference was the direct sales approach. And so even though it took a little bit of time to set it up and then build traction for people to start realizing that I do that. But it's so far I'm like that's where at least for me the potential's right there. That's where I can see some big swings on income stream, and I'm reaching some really new readers that way. And I like it. I like it. I advise it.
Wow. Yeah, that's super exciting. And what do you think is the most helpful outreach for you? Can I flip the question on you in terms of like how do you drive the direct sales? Is it through TikTok? Is it through
Predominantly, it's this platform, but I do have people. I'm on active, or I try to be active on a bunch of the other platforms, and I know I have gotten sales or gotten questions of interest of people through some of the other platforms. And one of the other things I've been trying to do since last fall, a little before I went to the conference, was really start engaging and utilizing the universal brain power of having a readers group on
mm,
Facebook. That was something I didn't utilize before. I mean, I had a readers group, but I didn't do much with it. So now I'm a lot more engaged with them, and I've had them like help me come up with future monstrous creatures for future book series, and they
ooh,
and they get really active. And for the Kickstarter it's the last week. This is I think 6 days after today, or ends next Tuesday or something like that. But for that one, they were helping me vote for and select some of these fun little add-on goodies to kind of build your own book box for that. So utilizing them and saying, what do you like? What do you think? Do you A or B? And, polling questions. And I know they've gotten a lot more invested in,
mm,
my brand. But also
yeah.
it's been a lot of fun to kind of get to know them that way. So I'll just say that's been fun building out that. But as far as just just general sales, it's still book talk. That's like I think the main one for me.
Gotcha. Great. Great.
I don't know. How was your experience on here so far? Because again, you started after we talked in the fall, and but I think it's just a fun place to go and meet people.
Yes, absolutely. I have some of my followers are just like really active. It's really fun to engage with them. I have gotten so many different reading recommendations. Oh my gosh. So I'm trying to chip away at all of them while reading, but it's just, it's fun. I kind of think I touched on, I have that silly side to me that sometimes seeps through into my characters. Um, but I very much like posting bookish humor type things. And I'm also very data driven. So one thing I'm doing is I'm tracking like, hey, who is coming into my newsletter subscription through social media versus through this different promotion or this or that. Um, and I can tell that Book Talk is people are interested, so it's steadily growing, and it's exciting to see. So, and it, in turn makes it more encouraging for me to get on the platform and continue creating, because I know I'm reaching people who are actually interested in the work.
Yes. And it's a good thing, because when you're spending so many hours or whatever, investing your time and energy into something, and again, it could be a platform, it could be, some other kind of ad or whatever, and you just don't know if you're reaching anybody, that's frustrating. So it is nice to be able to just have those interactions, be like, yes, someone just said, did a post about one of my books. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Reach another one.
Yeah, I think I need to I'd love to reach out to more book talk reviewers, I suppose. I haven't done a ton of that, but that is an area that I could explore and try to expand my TikTok presence with, I think.
Yes. And depending on, I guess, the reviewer, if they're an ebook person and you are able to do, distribute your ebooks versus, I guess you could still do art kind of things. But yeah, if you're able to freely distribute your ebooks to whomever you want, that's such a, inexpensive thing for an author to do, is being like, hey, you want to be art read, or hey, you want to, get a freebie for a review, that's great. And then obviously a lot of people on this particular platform specifically love physical copies. So then that's, yes, more added expense, but it is also nice when someone posts a video being like,
You can actually hold it. Exactly.
yeah.
Oh, speaking of just physical items, can I show you my most recent purchase?
Okay. Beautiful. I love it. Fantastic.
It is, this was a lot of fun, especially unboxing yesterday and showing my partner, and he's like, I don't know if I feel comfortable with that in the house. I said, well, no.
What are you going to? I love that. The funny thing is, over the weekend on Sunday, I'm moving houses. So I was able to pretty much pull down my old armory that was on my old office space, flex room, whatever, and I brought it over here. But then you have to oil, at least the type of metal that I have for a lot of my replica stuff. You have to oil it and care for it. So then I had to bring like the little mineral oil and oil all the swords and the axes and.
Wow, so you have like a whole collection, because this is my first.
I've been building it out for a while, and most of them are replica stuff of the Viking era, because my Viking fantasy series has kind of done this like spinning thing where I've just fallen, super in love with Norse mythology and the Viking era history, and so all that kind of stuff. But, and I also brought back, and talking about my show and tell, so this little piece right here that you can't tell really what it is, that's an active trebuchet.
Really? Ooh, that's so fun.
Shoot my dog's treats across the house. Here's the dirty Oh god, that one got me. But yes, I think it's missing a piece, so I have to go fix it, and then maybe I'll do a demo video. I don't know how I'm going to use it. Maybe it'll select my next read from my physical TBR list or something.
Oh, that would be so fun. I don't know, like whatever you put in it, and they would just like land on a book or something. That is brilliant.
But let me actually ask, while we're talking about books and everything, so you've been saying kind of like, I know the feel, coming on here, you get so many book recommendations, either through people you know or books you just happen to come across.
Hmm.
And I do know that because now my physical TBR list, as well as my wish list, Amazon on they're getting bigger every day. So, what is one book on your TBR list that you want to read in the near future? I won't say next, but near future that came from here.
Yeah, do I have to choose one that I haven't started yet?
You can choose whichever, whatever you want.
Um, well, so I'm in the middle of a few. I'm on audiobook. I'm listening to Ascendant by Michael R. Miller. On Kindle, I am reading No Heart for a Thief by James Lloyd Doolin. And somebody who I came across on TikTok and Instagram, I think, was L.R. Schultz's a King's a King's Radiance. I think yeah, King's Radiance is the first one, and the Sun Prince is the second one. Anyway, so the Sun Prince is I have not actually started yet, and that is one that I really, really want to get to. I do love my unique magic systems, and I think that one is based on solar power, like solar generated power. So yeah, I really want to know more about that.
I wonder if solar flares are going to play effect to that and like a boost of energy. And
Yeah, and I know he is writing another series, and it's a dark fantasy. He just posted the cover for it. It looked super cool, and it like had this guy with like green smoke and skulls. So it's a dark fantasy. But I don't know much about it yet. But I think like it uses souls as the magic, the resource for the magic system. I think. Don't quote me on that.
love that. Soul magic. Not like the music.
Exactly. And I think like because I'm also thinking there are some other genres I'd be interested in writing too. Like I want to consider I'm considering some progression fantasy. Are you familiar with Will White's Cradle series?
I don't know. I will say no. That doesn't mean if you show me a cover and I'm better with covers and really bad with names.
Yeah.
But I'm going to just say no for this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, are you familiar with progression fantasy though?
Actually, no, I'm not. So I can't wait. I was going to ask. I was like, I love learning new like terminology. So tell me, tell me.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, like, imagine it's kind of like lit RPG, even, but not quite. Just in the sense that you have a character who's really weak, but kind of levels up, and each book they get stronger and stronger and stronger and
Yeah.
stronger. And one thing that the Will White series does is he's got like this boy Lyndon who grows up in Sacred Valley, and there are four different schools of magic that you can go into, but he is too weak to enter any of them. And then you realize, like, wait, there's also cosmic powers at play, and lo and behold, Lyndon is fated to rise to these. I assume he's going to rise to these cosmic levels because it's like a 9 book series, but I'm only 2 or 3 books in, so.
Kind of also anime-ish of like building up and like, but also the big bads get bigger and bigger. But I have a question that popped in, which is an interesting one. Do you consider Legends and Lattes, if you've read it, a progression fantasy?
So I'm not sure if Legends and Lattes is progression fantasy. I think I'd call that one more of a cozy fantasy.
It definitely is.
Um,
Yes.
And also, I may not even like be the expert on progression fantasy, but I believe the progression happens over more than just one book, and usually there's like a series of levels. So you have to go from like imagine you are studying taekwondo and you have to go from green belt to yellow to blue, et cetera, to black. That's kind of where we're going with progression fantasy.
Okay, wait, here you go. Progression fantasy book, and the colors, like the main color hue palette, is based off the leveling up of, and like it's behind the scenes. It doesn't even have to have anything to do with martial arts, but like like the black belt all the way back to the final one is going to be like a black hue, and you start with like a white hue. That would be kind of a fun little
Yes,
subtle thing.
absolutely. And also, just going back to Paperback Journey's question, there is, I also haven't read I don't know if it's a sequel or a prequel even, but
I think
Bookshops
it's a
and Bone
prequel.
Dust.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I haven't read it either, so I'm not sure if that plays a part into the progression fantasy. But yeah, I guess that's all I was gonna add there.
I guess it would be hard for either of us to answer because yeah, I have Legends and Lattes. I did get to meet Baldry very briefly, just for a signing, and I was just like, hi.
Yes.
but
You
but
got to that's nice. That's fun.
Dragon Con again. You got it. I don't know how often he will be popping up. I think it was his first time at Dragon Con. But there are definitely some big name authors that go regularly that bring a lot of people. So you never know. Maybe you'll come into Atlanta one day and just hang out with me.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I gotta add Dragon Con to my list too then.
If you want to do like a full tour, because West Coast to East.
Yep, that's right.
I know, like I'm trying to be better about going to events for my own. Just for me, I'm more comfortable with
Hmm.
standing on panels because I like to talk. Yeah. So I like to talk. So panels are fine. I don't know if I have like the setup, and I would have to potentially invest in a setup to do a signing. And so I think I would be a little nervous. Like, would anybody come and do it? Would it, pay out and all that kind of stuff? So I've been nervous about like signing up for signings. But if there's a chance that I could be a speaker, I'm like, okay, cool. But I've been trying to, at least be more aware of what is available in my region and start, submitting to a wider variety. Is that something you would ever consider doing, is be a panelist or go to a convention and sell your books?
I think the idea of being a panelist is nerve-wracking to me. It probably wouldn't be too difficult, but but yeah, and then book sign. I don't know if I'm quite ready for those yet. I'm like still struggling so hard to figure out how to just do some like basic level marketing, to then figure out like shipping logistics and setup requirements and booth
Yes.
arrangements and all that stuff. That's like, I'm like, okay, I can't process that at this particular time in my life right now, but someday I'm not ruling it out.
Fair enough. I totally understand that one. Now, if you hear any background noise on my behalf, my husband is trying to refloor a room that kind of butts up to my office. I hear him now back from the shop store for his next round. So be warned, be warned. You might hear some background noise. But yeah, no, I totally get that. And again, it's kind of like for me, the concept of just randomly talking to strangers on platforms like this was nerve wracking. And then I finally started doing some lives. And then, these co-hosting lives. And it kind of just was like a snowball effect. You have to work within your comfort zone, but periodically challenge yourself to at least, try something maybe a little bit out every so often and see where you feel, because that does help improve. But I get that. I get that. It can be scary. Now, here's a good thing to do. I get questions because I do these lives all the time, or like,
Mhm.
pitch your book. Pitch your book. What are they about? So like coming up with your, that hook line, that one sentence, explanation for your book. So for your series, can you pitch it in a sentence?
Okay,
You run on sentence.
so let's try this. I would
Good,
say
good practice.
my book is about an ancient evil that is getting ready to escape from its prison realm and just turn the land into a mass grave unless some unlikely heroes from very different uh, nations that are all at war with each other can come together and help everybody overcome their differences and unite against that common enemy.
I love it. And that's a great pitch. And for me, it's like, okay, definitely falls into, for me, that kind of epic fantasy scenario. So kudos. Good job. Good job.
Okay.
You did that. But yeah, it's good to like challenge yourself to be like, okay, one sentence. Okay, can you do like a 6-word kind of like truly hook, and work on your blurbs. And you don't have to memorize your blurbs verbatim, but just just give them the general ideas or the lists of your genres and subgenres, because that's what I do all the time. I'm like, okay, guys, it falls into blah 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 blah. Go.
Yeah, well, can I ask you if you have your hook? your one sentence.
Trying to think of which one to. Okay, set in a magical multiverse that periodically will have moments of history where existence is threatened. A hero, in this case heroine, potentially will arise to set things right, and the predicted next hero will be a child of Earth. I guess that's not really that's like a preliminary. Nope, that's not a sentence one too. See, it's something I have to work with because now I wanted a like secondary sentence to wrap it up. So it's one of those kind of like good challenge that someone asked me recently, and I was just like, huh, I need to work on this.
Yeah, well, hey,
Hard to eat off the cuff.
practice makes, I don't know if it makes perfect, but it makes better. I've got that train coming by.
It's fine. It's fine. And the fact that you did it just so naturally, so that's a good thing. Good thing. Every author and writer needs to work on that skill. How do you pitch your book in a sentence? Go. But it can be tough. But yeah, I'm better at like saying, you know, okay, so I have the Incarn saga, starting with the Tsar's Clause, is set in the kingdom on the verge of war, and the main character is drafted, and you follow her and her companions on this epic adventure where prophecies and dark dealings are intermixed with political intrigue, and you know you can kind of like figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it's like we are epic fantasy authors. We like long word counts. Why are you asking us to give you a single sentence?
Yes. Very true. Very true. Oh my goodness, I feel like that would be hysterical. Have a shirt that says "Ask me about my book pitch." Walk around and it just like to practice being like, okay.
Although, and then, except on the flip side of the shirt, it's like, and then the entire thing is just a block of text, and it's all in like size 2 font. Like,
And then
this
the
is my,
photo will
my
like
condensed
turn to
book.
page 2. Moving on, but no, that's hysterical. That is hysterical. But let me ask, because the hour is actually speeding by, and I just looked up at the time. There were definitely some that are questions I always want to make sure I cover each time. In the off chance this app is nice and will let me repurpose this on my YouTube channel, so then hopefully other people can find and follow you in the future. And one of the questions is, where can people outside of Book Talk find and follow you? Newsletter, website, other socials. Where can people stalk you?
Yeah, so on TikTok and Instagram, and Facebook as well. I think my handle is just Rocco Levitas Author on all 3. And I actually think I do have a YouTube channel now that I haven't like actually posted anything. I realized I probably need one, so I haven't put any like actual content on it yet. But I'm there, and there's a link to my newsletter if you are interested in getting The Shadow of Loss, which is the prequel novella to my series. I have a link to a free digital copy that you can grab for joining my newsletter, and that there should be a link in each of my bios on social.
That's neat.
Yeah, and then the books are available on Amazon in Kindle Unlimited. Well, this one is only available as paperback, but book 1 and the rest of the series is what I'm intending is on KU and in paperback and digital.
Nice, very nice. Now, if you are on the Amazon side of things, which I was exclusive through Amazon for a long, long time, have you considered doing their hardcover too? I mean, they don't have the wraparound, but they do offer it, and I know that's, you know, honestly, I think they're pretty decent quality for what they are.
Yeah, that does. You know, okay, so
And
can
they
I
don't
actually pose a question?
That's what I meant. Dust jacket, sorry.
Yeah, so I actually do. I went through Ingram Spark, and this is a hardcover, right, or hardback right here. And I like that it has a little, you know, prophecy excerpt from the series too in that inner jacket. But anyway, yeah. So this, when you take the dust jacket off on Ingram Spark, currently I've got it as a blue, it's called digital cloth because it has, I don't know how well it shows here, but it's technically just a laminate, but it looks like that kind of a cloth cover. Um,
That
I
kind of
was hoping that it had gold emblazoned title words, but that's actually just printed on there.
thing.
So I don't know. I'm considering, do I want to use Amazon's or do I like keep this and maybe just update the laminate casing to be the cover, just without, maybe simplified, just the artwork. So
It can be as complicated as you want because I think you would have to ask him. Jason Duro on here, one of my other author friends. He. I'm trying to think if he does both for his hardcover, but I know for his paperback because he uses Ingram Sparks to distribute to everybody but Amazon, and the Amazon just for the Amazon ones for his print. And that may be something you can also play with because sometimes some people have better really working relationships with one platform versus another, and so it's sometimes again it's a little more work on your end, but it could also give you options if you were okay with Amazon's version not having the dust cover, but everybody else getting the dust cover.
right, yeah, it's definitely something that I want to look deeper into too. I'm also intending on. Well, okay, so I haven't even like announced this yet. I'm just researching, but I'm looking into Kickstarter right now to help with cover. I'm laid off right now, which is fine. I've got savings and everything. But putting a book together is quite an expensive endeavor. So I'm considering, seeing if Kickstarter would be a viable option to recuperate some of those initial expenses.
Kind of what I do.
Get that book through those final stages of editing so that I can ship book 2 and 2.5 out and then, include different options. I'm considering doing a special edition for the series as well, exclusive to Kickstarter. All of this I'm still going through, some initial planning stages. It won't be ready for a little while yet. So I know you clearly have some experience yourself right now.
Well, this one's my only my second one, and and there are definitely I have friends that are they've excelled far beyond where I am with Kickstarter, but I do believe that platform does have so much benefit for authors who are doing exactly what you're considering, either offsetting some of the upfront cost or maybe cover it all. That would be lovely of publication because that's a lot. To special editions, to as our friend ZSD Monty did was audiobooks because he wanted to fundraise for that specifically. And he, offered other tiers that had other kind of formats on it, but that's what he was fundraising for. That, I do think it is a invaluable resource that authors should consider. They don't have to do it. They could try it out once and hate it. But if it works for you, it's a great thing to have in your arsenal.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's something that I'd like to do for, I don't mind even being transparent too with like the cost of production, but suffice it to say, it can cost upwards of $5,000 for editing services alone for a book this size. And then, because that's going through 2 different rounds of editing to make sure that the story really shines. And then there's cover design, which is over $1,800 for this series per book, regardless of the size. So it's like, there's expenses to try and recoup. And then I was looking into audiobook production. And my estimate is that this one is probably 25 spoken hours to narrate. And there is this one couple who are amazing. And like, Michael Kramer, oh wait, I probably shouldn't say names. So if you are repurposing this, just maybe
I'll see if I can.
$900 per finished hour. So that would be over $20,000 for an audiobook. Now there are of course less expensive options, and I'm actually looking into some other options right now. I think I've got a call with Podium audio tomorrow, actually. They reached out to me. So I said, you know what? I've been thinking about it, but I'm also considering, using Kickstarter. But yeah, I don't know. I'm like, I might raise $1,000, and that's definitely not enough to cover audiobook production. I
There is,
don't
and
know what to
there's
expect.
pros and cons to everything. There is that option if you go through the ACX platform where you can do the split, where you don't pay anything up front, but you are contracted to do that 50-50 of your cut for, I think, 7 years. I think that's the year count. And I'm doing that for one series just because, it's expensive and I'm trying to turn all my book series into audiobooks simultaneously. And so, looking at the numbers, and that's one thing is I decided, I was like, I wanted to do that for one, while I could then use the rest of the money to kind of pay for some of these other projects to move along. But yeah, it can get pretty pricey for the audiobook side of things. And again, Kickstarter is something to consider if you're trying to, turn your book into a new medium, because there are lots of people who audiobook or bust.
Right.
Audiobook or bust. And it is nice to be able to reach them. Now, when you're not contracted, and you can distribute your book anywhere and all that kind of stuff, there is that option, which I just recently was told is that BookFunnel distributes audiobooks. So if you have those files, you can sell direct, potentially, audiobooks. And so that's one of the things that after my Kickstarter, and I'm going to take a little breath, I might flip things around, because originally I was trying to move wide this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much work. I don't know why. It just that's one of the few things I'm not a procrastinator. That's one of those few things I'm procrastinating about. But I'm like, if I could figure out how to take some of my other audiobooks and sell them direct, I was like, that would probably be the better marketing situation for me, because I like direct sales right now. That's my jam.
That's great. Yeah, and how many books do you have? I know we're coming up on the
Right now, 7 full lengths, and the Kickstarter is going to be for the 8th one, 2 different series, and then 13 novellas. And then there are omnibuses, bundles of the novellas, and my other books on the side too. So I don't necessarily call them as separate books, because they're the same books, just packaged differently. So yeah, 13 novellas at this moment, and in a couple months, 8 full lengths.
Nice.
Party dance. Okay. But yeah, okay. Let me ask you, and then for anybody else who's jumping in wants to inquire as well, is there any topic that you wanted to cover that we didn't cover? Is there any question you had that you didn't get a chance to ask? And again, that goes for the audience as well. But I always make sure when I cover it.
No, I think actually everything has come up organically, but just an open question to the audience. If there are any questions you have, I'm happy to answer. I kind of am always interested to know what people's favorite tropes are to read. And yeah, I just like knowing what other people are interested in. I'll even go through some of the reviews of books that I've like Lord of the Rings, for example, right? And I'll sometimes look at the 1-star reviews and just see, I wonder why somebody didn't like this, and just keep that in mind for my own writing. I know, obviously, when you're giving Lord of the Rings a 1-star rating, like, okay, who cares about your opinion? No, I'm just kidding. But I'd like to know why, because maybe there is a pitfall. Was something too rambling? Is there something that I can learn from that to just get a pulse check on what readers in general are looking for or not looking for?
That's a great question for you to ask also for one of your daily posts, if you haven't done that anyways. But thinking about this, maybe we both should do this. This would be kind of fun. Just talking about like tropes and like what people's interest, because sometimes if you just ask in general tropes, they're going to go with the most obvious one in their head and forget that they like other things. Maybe it would be almost beneficial to do a versus and say, this trope or this trope, what do you prefer? and then what
Um,
again, you said you're very good with like the analysis of things, and maybe a bracket or some way where you can figure out some popular ones and kind of pull out some of maybe uh, terms of tropes that people are like, oh yeah, I do like that one. I love that one. Why don't I ever think about that? Because I realize I do that too. Is just subgenres as well as tropes where it's like, man, I forgot how much I love that one. So it would be kind of fun to just have like
yeah, yeah,
popular.
definitely. Maybe we can even figure out a little joint effort there too. I've got some. I'm thinking like morally gray shadow daddy versus this. Who do you choose or what do you choose?
Yes, Morley Gray, cinnamon roll. What are all these terms that everybody has? But like, and find your favorites. But no, I do think that would be a good thing, and maybe we should both do this. We both do this, and then like put our heads together and figure out like so. Our studies said,
I like it. I like it.
test theory says, because sometimes it's hard to come up with content, and that one would be fun. That one would also hopefully theoretically engage people. I like this. I like this idea. We should both do this.
Yeah. Done.
Absolutely. Well, okay, so one last final question for you because you actually already answered where your books are sold. But so because you're progressing through your editing, or is it writing or editing of the next book, when do you foresee another book going to the wild, as they say, I guess, on this platform? When do you think your next launch will be? Will it be this year, next year? Some people don't know. What do you have?
I see you are now locking me into holding to this. I anticipate book two to be published by sometime in I'm hoping September, maybe October of this year, and I'd love book 2.5 to be published before New Year's as well. Hopefully, like November. Um, I that said, I also hope to like open up beta reading for book two in mid to late May, and then arc reading in August or September, like about a month before the official publish.
Now, when you do open ARCs for this, will that be something that they can sign up on your website, through your link in your bio, through your newsletter? Like, where can people access that coming
Yep,
up?
they can.
Going to hear this, if I can repurpose this.
Yeah, absolutely. They can sign up on my. Oh, I have to check to see. I might have to add it back into the link in my bio.
That's why
I
some
did
people.
have ARC signups there for a while, but I took them down just because I didn't want people to sign up for it now and then not like get an email until months from now. But I suppose that was already a few months ago, so it might be worth dropping it back in. But yeah, if there's not, you can also email me at author@roccolevitas.com. And or you can go to my website, roccolevitas.com, and there should be a tab at the top that says early access. So and it gives you an option to sign up for either ARC readers or beta readers, and it goes into just a little explanation of what the expectations are with each of those different roles.
Yeah, because there are very different roles, and people need to know, are you going to be actually like a working editing side of things, or are you here to just enjoy it and then review later? What is your preference? And I wish I was a faster reader. I really do, because I would love to help people out by being an ARC reader, but nope, I'm too slow. It takes me forever just because I have so many other things outside of reading and rereading and rereading my work.
Yes. I have to do that. I actually have to reread my book one because I'm worried that like one of my characters is losing their voice. I'm like, no, come back. You're my favorite character. So I need to now. I went from book one then to writing the prequel, and now I'm like writing book 2.5. So I'm like, I need to go back and revisit the basics and make sure everything's lining up properly.
And it's good also to come back with fresh eyes. That does help you catch things. You're like, ooh, this actually really went smoother than I would hoped or I feared. And then other times it's like, yeah, I need a little editing love.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, thank you for hanging out with me this past hour, and I'm glad we could get together because East Coast, West Coast time, that sometimes there's only like slivers in like the week where I can fit this in, but
Right.
I'm excited. I was excited ever since you joined the book talk and I was like waiting for your 1,000 followers, and then I was like, you're signing up for none of these, right? You're gonna,
Yes,
right?
definitely.
And if you ever want to do another one of these, again, just chit chatty at Happen Weekly, just reach out to me whenever you want to do another, and yeah, we'll schedule one going forward. Maybe.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. So definitely look forward to that.
Perfect. Well, thank you for hanging out, and thank you for everybody who's popped in. And again, crossing fingers, I can repurpose this later, and I'll let you know if that's the case. But have a great rest of your afternoon.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, Katharine. You too.
Bye.
Bye bye.